The NHL season is heating up, and there's never been a better time to get in on the action. Whether you're looking to hammer an Austin Matthews anytime goal or ride the puck line with the Montreal Canadiens, our partners at Sign Up Expert want to make sure you're ready to sweat your bets with one of the best. Sign Up Expert is hooking up our listeners with one of the newest sports books available in Canada, Betano. Betano is home to some of Canada's best odds when it comes to betting on the NHL and offers unique markets, including virtual soccer and basketball. All you have to do to get started is scan that QR code on your screen or click the link in the description to register and place that first bet. If you thought the Vancouver Canucks have been the best surprise of the season so far, wait until you try Betano. Don't walk, run to check out Betano today. Scan that QR code or hit the link in the description to get started and start sweating your bets with the best. Always remember to bet responsibly and within your means. Viewers must be 19 plus to sign up for Betano. Okay, it was a game tonight in which the Calgary Flames played. As you can hear, my dog, she's just going crazy right now with how much she enjoyed that game. But yeah, I figured I'd introduce our guest today before we get any further. You know him from TikTok, you know him from Twitter. I'm sure you've roasted him in some capacity in one of the graphics he's put out about your favorite player or your favorite team. Welcome, my pal Mike Bartner. How you doing, buddy? I know you're happy, but
I'm doing good. Haven't felt this feeling of an Islanders win in quite a long time. It's been almost like 2 weeks at this point. 2-0 on Game Over thus far. Obviously, went on Winnipeg, and the Islanders won that game as well. So I need to keep on coming on these shows.
Yeah, no kidding.
Start going on a heater, but I'm really excited to hop into and talk about this pretty interesting and pretty wild game for the most part.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and you and I were talking about it a little bit before we hit live, but yeah, just one of those games like. For me, starting from the beginning, if you take this game, like from a Flame standpoint, if you took this game and gave it a score or judged the winner based on like a boxing match, 3 rounds, or I guess it would be like technically 5 rounds in this case because it went to a shootout. The Flames probably win the first period. I'd give the Islanders the second period. Then it's probably a split in the third. The Flames really picked it up near the end, and then overtime was goddamn Flames central. Just nonstop. It's a sin that the Calgary Flames did not score a goal to win the hockey game in overtime, but instead they take it to a shootout, and obviously a tough loss. But if you were to judge it on a boxing match, pretty even for the most part. But the Flames just continue to struggle to not play that full 60. That old hockey cliche of not playing a full 60. But from an Isles standpoint, before we get too far into how the Flames were, obviously coming into this one, a pretty big skid there from the Islanders, and they finally put a rest to that.
Yeah, and it wasn't just like they were getting blown out every single game. It was a lot of get up 2-1, get up 3-2, and just collapse in the third period. They said it at the MSG broadcast that coming into this game on this 7-game skid, they were getting outscored in the third period, which we'll get into, 16-4. So they were just like collapsing in the third period. Obviously, they did hold on to it in terms of this game. It got definitely dicey. They were up 3-1, end up going overtime, going to the shootout, but. It was pretty standard Islanders hockey. They really grinded it out, and yeah, I'm excited to dive into everything in this game.
Grinded it out. You talked about boring hockey before we hopped on. Not much of a secret there over on Long Island, but from a Flames standpoint, few things really stand out to me as some bright spots. I don't want to be too negative. Flames fans in here know how I get when the Flames start losing. They call it the Auddie curse. Or whatever you want to call it. Whenever I host these shows, the Flames tend to lose. So I talk a lot of negative, as you can see by the old, hold on, I don't know if you've seen this yet. My old missing sign, but we can actually start.
I think I saw you tweet that out.
We can actually start scratching some names off this list.
Yeah, Kadri started to play good. That's something.
That's a good segue into what I was going to talk about. The almost guaranteed Islander in the offseason, Nazem Kadri. I can't believe that, eh? Like, I actually was thinking about that watching this game. I'm like, I got to talk to Mike about that narrative that it was like a done deal. He just had to sign the contract, or he was pending a physical or some shit like that. Before we go any further, let's just like what were your takes on that in the offseason? That was kind of a wild time.
I was always like, if they could get him on like a 4 to 5 year deal, I'd definitely be for it. 7 6 7 years. What was he, 32 when he signed?
Yeah.
I wasn't like heartbroken, say maybe when Gaudreau ended up signing, which obviously that now looks kind of like a debacle, or obviously when they missed out on Panarin or even like Gabriel Landeskog. The Nazem Kadri, we've been through this a ton. It happened with Landeskog, it happened with Panarin, it happened with Gaudreau. It's like the Kadri missing out on a 32-year-old clearly off a career year that's not going to replicate that. That one was like, oh, it just would have been another pretty long into their late 30s contract that we avoided. So I wasn't too heartbroken over that. Obviously, the Islanders could use a guy like Nazem Kadri right now in terms of balancing out their scoring, but that's not the one that I lose sleep over. There's definitely other ones that have hurt more.
It was definitely a funny time because it was like a sure thing. Like I can't remember. It must have been. I think it was Pagnotta or whoever was like, "Yeah, it's happening." Blah blah blah. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
He was like, every tweet for like a month after that was Islanders fans being like, "You're a fraud," like, going after him nonstop. Like, "Are you sure about that, David?" With like the screenshot of like, "Oh, that was Kadri's a lock to it."
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, Islanders fans do not like David Pagnotta. That has not changed at all.
That's so funny. Anyway, before we got into it, I had to ask you about that, but it's good segue because one of the shining spots tonight for Calgary, at least. And I think a lot of fans and a lot of people watching would agree that one of the glaringly obvious shining spots in the Flames offense and, their play as a whole has been the Kadri, Pospisil, and Connor Zary line, which, it took Kadri a little bit to get going. This was a time here where Nazem Kadri was not playing his best hockey. The Flames weren't playing, and they still aren't playing their best hockey. But ever since the recall of Pospisil and Connor Zary and this whole kind of, he's leading the youth on this line, and the youth, you talk about how Pospisil and Connor Zary have played. Pospisil gets on the board. Zary gets a couple, 1 or 2 points tonight. And, they're really playing well and playing as great as a unit with Nazem Kadri. Just kind of wanted to get your outside take on how that line performed tonight and kind of what you think about those three.
Yeah, just overall, I thought that was by far their most dangerous line. Obviously, that one goal, Kadri kind of reading it the right way to throw it off the boards, leading Pospisil.
That was so nasty.
Just because Romanov was kind of caught flat-footed on that, and just in general, Pospisil is going to beat him most times. So looking at that one play, that was great, and just they had a ton of skill, a ton of speed off the rush, getting into the zone, creating chances all night. That was like whenever they were on the ice, I was definitely the most scared compared to what I saw like Hubert or back on the ice. I wasn't that scared. But yeah, I think that line was really humming for Calgary tonight, and honestly impressed me as someone that didn't really know much about Matt Pospisil. And obviously Zary has been great once he got called up. What is he, like 7 points in 7 games now? But yeah, I wasn't really expecting that line to absolutely cook, but they looked really good.
Oh, they've been cooking, and it's something Flames fans, I'm sure as obviously someone who covers the league on a very broad basis, aside from your Islanders fandom. Something that Flames fans have been clamoring for is to play the youth. So it's nice to see the youth injection in the lineup. Not seeing fourth lines consisting of, Trevor Lewis. Not gonna say the other guy's name just for obvious reasons of what went down with him today. But just bums on the fourth line and bums plugging in spots where some youth can be stealing. The way I looked at it last year with some of those fourth line bums, and even like they had some of these guys playing in the top 6 for whatever goddamn reason. When I'm at my job and I'm not doing my job, the HR calls that time theft. More, it's not just minute theft from young guys who could prosper, but it's also a lot of time theft and just stealing money from your employer. But we're in a different boat right now with the Calgary Flames, and obviously you saw it. A lot of people saw it. The Kadri Zary Pospisil thing was a lot of fun to watch, and that first period was mostly dominated by that line in terms of the Calgary Flames. But another player that I think kind of stood out tonight for the Flames was Mackenzie Weegar, who just kind of was dominant in every single zone. Gets on the score sheet, just like firing pucks like crazy. I think he's got like 4 goals in 17 games, which is pretty nice. But obviously, you watched the game tonight. What did you think of our boy Weegar on the back end there?
Yeah. Obviously, I've been aware. I've watched him a ton. Just dominate in terms of defensively, but
Yeah.
he really controlled the blue line today. Really played with a lot of poise and just setting it up, setting the tone for that offense once they set up in the zone, and it was really impressive. I mean, Mackenzie Weegar everybody knows Mackenzie Weegar is a stud, but yeah, just getting to watch him for a full 60 tonight really solidified him as a legit top pair, probably like top 30 defenseman in the league for me.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I don't know if I saw your list of ranked defensemen, but I'm sure I'm sure if you re-ranked them,
yeah,
that Mackenzie Weegar would be up there for sure. For those watching live, sorry to people listening on playback, you can't ask questions. If you're watching live, just save your questions for the end. I forgot to do my housekeeping before we started. We're going to hit the press conference at the end of the episode. If you got questions for myself, if you got questions for Mike, we can talk about them. They could be Islanders related. They could be Flames related. They could be whatever you want to talk about. You can ask questions, including Mike's soon-to-be Infinity Gauntlet of Game Over appearances. If you need reference to that, check out the thumbnail. I told you. By the way, you sent me that picture, and I told you damn well, I gave you forewarning that I was going to use it.
Of course. It's an elite edit.
And I'm glad that you didn't give me any shit for it, because I was ready. I was going to go back in the conversation.
Yeah.
I was going to screenshot it and be like, man, I told you, I gave you forewarning before the season even started.
I fully had to change my face to make it purple. I went all out. My Photoshop skills were on full display on that, so I'm happy. I kind of forgot about it. Like when I saw it, I zoomed in. I was like, what is that? Yeah, we got 2 more. How many? Yeah, 5 more to go. 5 more Canadian.
Yeah, you got to make your way around. I'm sure I'm sure we could make that happen. Moving into the second period in tonight's game, it was heavily. I don't know. What was your take? Was it heavily dominated by the Islanders, or was it kind of dominated by them, but also the Flames took their foot off the gas like they usually do when they have a lead? Like, how did you read that second period? Because the Flames did not play very well. I think
for the most part, yeah, it was played in the Flames' defensive zone. For the most part, Islanders did a pretty good job at setting up shop there. I wouldn't say like the Islanders were murdering them with high danger chances.
No, I don't think so either.
Cycling around looking for something, ended up Dobson slap shot at the blue line that misses the net or something like that. But it was definitely encouraging from the Islanders in terms of responding, obviously being down in that game. You're coming off 7 straight winless, so having that fight really impressed me in that. And overall, at the Islanders, really the best line showed up today in terms of the Brock Nelson, Pierre Engvall, Kyle Palmieri line. It's been the best line without a doubt since the Horvat trade, since the lines got shuffled. They really just dominate possession and just have so much chemistry with each other. So they were really flying today, and a main reason why we were able to put up 4 goals, which is pretty rarity for this team. So in terms of the second period, they really brought their A game, and the team as a whole kind of performed above expectations.
Yeah, and I think that if you look at one of the biggest flaws for the Flames in that second period too was getting onto the power play and then immediately taking a penalty. Like they had 2
Jonathan Huberdeau one.
Yeah, the Huberdeau one, and then I think it was it Hanifin at the end of the period? Yeah, Hanifin. It was I can't remember what the original penalty was, but then I think he slashed. I can't even remember who, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're doing this again?"
The Huberdeau one was insane, just smacking him in the face when he's like playing the puck, and it was like 4 seconds in. I was like, our penalty kill has been god awful this year. I think it might be up to like 69% now this year instead of right now instead of like 64 after this game. Yeah, that wasn't intentional, but yeah, it's like our penalty kill has been horrible. So when you could get out of penalties within the first couple seconds or first 30 seconds because of the other team, That's how you gain momentum with your penalty kill going forward for the rest of the year. A kill's a kill.
That's how they just counter it. Yeah, they don't even kill penalties anymore. They get like, well, I guess they get like a 4-second kill. They're gonna get a 4-second kill, then they're gonna just start looking for like ways to get a call against the other team. But yeah, they were talking about it on the broadcast. Like we watch Hockey Night in Canada opposed to you guys. But Kelly Rudy, he wasn't even on the call tonight. Greg Millen was talking about just how horrendous the Islanders' penalty kill has been. And I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm glad you brought it up because I'm not trying to throw salt in the wound because, like, I cover the Flames and they're fucking dog shit this year. But, yeah, that was rough. But they ended up getting out of it due to the Flames. And then another thing from the Flames side of things was just a pretty, I don't want to say piss poor game, but at least a piss poor second period from Rasmus Andersson, an uncharacteristic period for him. That Barzal goal, I think it was it Barzal who scored that one? Yeah,
that was right after the Huberdeau, penalty 4-4. Right? Yep.
Yeah, because they scored that 4-on-4, and just a fucking abysmal turnover, abysmal. Like I don't even know what he was trying to do, and they said it on the broadcast. They're like, I don't even know what the mindset was there to try to clear the puck.
Yeah, it was nothing. Yeah, I was genuinely. I thought like in the moment, I thought it just got like deflected, like it wasn't, but it was clear. Like he just sweeped it up top to Matt Barzal, and then obviously he rifled it home. There was a similar thing for the Islanders. Was that what led to the first penalty in terms of Ryan Polak? Like exiting it, he passed it right to Backlund, and Backlund like split him and Romanov, and then they drew the penalties. Like it was pretty funny. Like,
it kind of came full circle.
Islanders didn't get punished for that. Flames ended up, obviously Matt Barzal went on to score that, but yeah, two very just mind-boggling plays for the most part that like had my head scratching for the most part.
Which is crazy to me, like because the first period, the Flames in their own end, like. I wrote down in my notes, and I think they even talked about it briefly on the broadcast near the end of the period, was just how good the Flames were at breaking out of their own. Like, and it's something that the Flames haven't been good at all year, is their breakout has been not stellar. But breaking out of their own end and their transition from the neutral zone into the offensive zone was fast as fuck and clean. Like, it looked really, really good. And to see that kind of just fall by the wayside in the second period, and the Islanders obviously capitalizing on that.
Yeah. Like first period, I was like, how do the Flames have the record that they have in general? Like I know why the Islanders have the record they have in general. They just fall apart at every single game. I was like, this Flames team, I gotta watch them more. The record isn't matching up with the eye test, but definitely in the second period, you started to see some of the warts kind of come out for them in terms of just unnecessary, unforced turnovers and just confusing plays, and that obviously helped lead them to allowing 4 goals and Islanders winning.
Sloppy is the best way to put it. It was like I was fully prepared to come on and talk about this game had the Flames won, and talk about it as if it was a sloppy win, just like like it would have been a really good road win if they were the road team. It would have been a real good road win because it was just sloppy and kind of all over the place in that second period. And even to start the third, like it was not stellar. They start the third on the penalty kill, and then Palmieri, that was the second period. The Flames end up.
Palmieri gets the rebound, right?
Yeah. That was the second period. The first goal of the second period there. I think just after the penalty. Because I don't think it was a power play goal. Either way, into the third period, they kind of started a little sloppy. Then it was yet again another stellar shift from the Zari Pospisil and Kadri line, leading to that what we thought was Pospisil's second goal, but it was actually just a nuke from the blue line at off the tape of Uyghur. And I don't remember which defender it hit in front, but I think it deflected off of an Islander and went in. But then 20 seconds later, Flames foot off the gas, another sloppy play in the neutral zone, another sloppy, just like not great play in general, and Brock Nelson scores it. It was actually a pretty piss poor clearing attempt there by Nikita Zadorov, the man who so badly wants out of Calgary that he's actually stopped playing hockey for the Calgary Flames. It's crazy, Mike.
He's taking the trade value. He really wants that. You guys are going to get like a 3rd round pick in like a couple weeks after he's just god awful.
Buddy literally requested a trade and has just been dog water. Like, he has not been good since requesting a trade. And I've seen some fans online saying, somebody actually replied to one of my tweets today and was like, oh, this is on Craig Conroy for not trading him by now, blah, blah, blah.
It's
to which I reply, I'm like, it's been first of all, it's been a week since he's requested the trade. It was a week tonight that myself, Rachel Dory, and Lauren from Game Over Toronto actually broke the tweet live on Game Over that he requested the trade.
That must have been nuts.
I know. It was crazy. I'm like refreshing Twitter. I'm like, guys, stop. There's been a trade request. It's a week to the day that it happened. And I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but as a fan or as someone who consumes the product and follows and is invested as they are, I think I would probably lose a little bit of respect for Craig Conroy if he felt handcuffed by a GM or by an agent for putting out a trade request and just pulling the trigger on some bullshit trade instead of exploring. Like, at first it was just Toronto that was interested. Then Vancouver came out of the woodworks. Now it's apparently New Jersey and I can't remember who, Dallas. Like, if you the more teams that have interest, the more likelihood of a bidding war and the better your return. I don't know. What are you in the same boat and something like that?
Yeah. My whole thing with that was it was pretty immature by the agent just to release that, put Zadorov in that
We
position
are gold
with the
star.
Flames. Yeah, Milstein doing that was kind of just like I was shocked because it was like 12 games in and the Flames did start off very slow, but like the season's not over and obviously the trade deadline so far away that I don't know what the goal was. Like that night, I remember people were like, oh, like Brad Treliving, make sure he doesn't get on the plane. I'm like, what are you talking? Like, no, a trade's not gonna come out of nowhere in like under an hour after.
Hearing that Nikita Zadorov is staying in Toronto tonight, he's booked an extra hotel room.
Yeah, he's not leaving. He's not leaving, but I refuse to get on the plane. Yeah, I thought it was crazy. I mean, he's gonna get traded. We all know that, but just let the process play out. It's not like if they didn't go out publicly and say this, like they just weren't going to trade him at the deadline if they were out of the playoffs. Like it was going to happen. It was a well-known secret for the most part that he was probably going to get moved as an expiring guy. So yeah, that whole situation, Craig Conroy was right to just relax. Some of the teams obviously want a guy like Nikita Zadorov, so they're going to come out of the woodworks. Maybe it slightly hurts the trade value, but I don't think
it's going to be drastic.
Yeah, honestly, it could help if you trade him now compared to the deadline. You get him for a full 65 games instead of just 30. But yeah, I think the Flames should weigh their options. Probably should trade him in the next month or so for the most part, just so it doesn't continue to drag out. But
and the noise, like that's something that Michael Backlund apparently spoke to the room about. Like let's put an end to the noise.
Yeah,
like too much attention.
Yeah, take the next couple of weeks, and then I assume he's not going to go off where like the trade value is going to drastically increase, but it's also not going to drastically decrease. So just get it done in the next couple of weeks, and then move on. If he doesn't want to be in Calgary, see you later.
Hasta la vista.
Thank you for your service.
That's
Thank you
right.
for your service.
That's right. Now I kind of wanted to ask you. By the way, if you're watching live, get some questions in. We'll start filtering through and hit the presser pretty soon. But I wanted to ask you from an outside perspective, again, as someone who covers and knows a lot about the league anyways. You're not just one of those people who knows about their team, which is great. The Flames and their direction. What do you see in terms of this team and what kind of path they should take? Because I know how I feel. I know how Flames fans feel. I think it's refreshing to have guests from out of market like we do on this show come in and kind of give us a sense of, okay, calm down, or you know what, maybe you guys aren't so crazy after all. Because the temperature for the most part for Flames fans is, sell. It's the end of the world as we know it. Tank, slacking for Macklin, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
How do you see it for the Flames from your vantage point?
Yeah, I don't. They're definitely not an ideal spot by any standards. But I was asked the other day when I did a Q&A, who has like the worst future, the Islanders and the Flames, and it's by far the Islanders because they have basically every single player signed long term. Calgary has this kind of inflection point to decide to sell, this kind of point where they can get a decent amount of assets to kind of restart and retool a little bit. Obviously, not moving off the Huberdeau deal. You're not moving off the Kadri deal. You're just going to have to, those are going to be your mentors for that next generation. But in terms of trading Tanev, trading Zadorov, trading Lindholm, probably Hannafin, like if they trade them all, they're going to have a nice little potential retool. I don't think it's going to have to be like a full rebuild. Maybe just 2-3 years of being low for the most part in the standards. Let some of that term come off the Huberdeau, come off the Kadri. Markstrom only has what, like 3 years left. So in looking at that, I think they're fine. It's definitely going to stink for the next 2 to 3 years, but I don't think this is a nuclear reset button. We already see Zari, Coronado should be good. Like they have a decent amount of pieces already. Next 2 to 3 years, if you can get first round picks for Hannafin, Lindholm, you can have a good core in if we're talking in November of 2025. I think the Flames can have a pretty bright future and be on the way. Obviously, if the ping pong balls go in the right way and they get Mac and Celebrini, it immediately turns into like a great future, in my opinion, having that one core piece. But I would not be in panic mode if I was the Calgary Flames. There's some teams in worse spots, obviously myself, but yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and I think that's refreshing for fans to hear because there's, I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think it's going to be as bleak as people think. Like it's not the dark ages of the Calgary Flames. And we've seen teams do it before where, you sell off your pending UFAs, you restock the cupboards that have been kind of bare for a little bit. They haven't had a top talent and out of the, like Johnny Gaudreau was a 4th round pick. I'm talking like they haven't picked, Matthew Tkachuk is like the high Matthew Tkachuk or Sam Bennett. I can't remember.
Bennett was 4th.
So it was
Tkachuk
like
was 6th.
Yeah, so Bennett was the highest draft pick in Calgary Flames history, but they've never had that guy. Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Islanders have had their fair share of first overall.
Yeah,
I know, but
exactly.
But, with them, like it could have been Islanders bad if they signed the Hannafin extensions and the Lindholm extensions like in the offseason or like the first couple weeks. Obviously, it's been reported like Conroy has kind of take those offers off of the table. That would have been really bad if they had Hannafin and Lindo, who are good players, but if at like 28, 29, if they were locked in for the next 7 years, then you'd be in the spot where like you kind of have to continue to win if you have 6 or 7 key guys signed long term like the Islanders. So like the fact they avoided that means that they do have this off ramp to go through this rebuild and retool compared to just mid forever.
Yeah, mid forever has kind of that's kind of where the Flames have been for the last like better part of since they won the Stanley Cup in 1989.
Yeah,
just perpetual mediocrity as the fan base likes to call it. Obviously the 04 run, but aside from that, it's been pretty mid, and that's, there's no better time to break that cycle, in my opinion, than right now when you have the opportunity to cash in on guys who will net you some pretty positive future assets. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's a different leader at the helm this year or this time in Calgary. Is ownership going to buy in on a slight retool? We know Brad Treliving was handcuffed here, and his directive was to continue to stay competitive, and he tried to do what he could in that regard, but obviously it just led to more mediocrity and as the kids call it these days, being mid.
That's the one thing that could stake if they have to go through this rebuild, and even when they open the new arena, they're still pretty bad.
I know
ownership would not love that. When's the new arena? It's like 2026.
2026, I believe. Yeah,
it's by then they'll be hopefully competitive. Yeah, maybe a year or two are stinking. I could see from that angle where the ownership would want to stay competitive for forever and just keep the building somewhat full. It's not Toronto or Montreal where you can go through like a 5-year rebuild and it doesn't really matter. It still sells out. Ticket prices are still up the wazoo, but it's so obviously the right move in terms of if they want to end up going back and winning a Stanley Cup like they once did back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So in looking at that, the clear path is not a nuclear rebuild, but definitely some years of stinking it up and getting high picks.
Yeah, I don't think it's got to be a nuke either, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Okay, let's get some press conference questions in. We got a couple good ones so far that I'll read off. There's one that's directed to you that's pretty good. But we'll get to that one. We'll get to that one after. Shout out to Left-Handed Penman. He says, "Don't throw it to me. I've just been rambling. I've seen your messages in the chat. Appreciate you being here as always. It's good to hear from you again." This one's from Conrad. When does Dan Vladar get traded to the LA Kings? And it's an interesting question because I believe their director of goaltending or one of their goaltending scouts has been in Calgary twice in the last 2 weeks to scout.
Really?
Except one was a Vladar start, the other was a Markstrom. Obviously, it's more than likely Vladar, not Markstrom. I don't. Yeah, unless they really want to just bring that kind of money in, but I don't really think that's in the cards whatsoever. Interesting question because when there was goaltending conundrums in the offseason leading into the preseason with teams like Tampa and teams like Colorado who suffered some goalie injuries, and Flames fans at the time were licking their chops like, that's Dan Vladar music right there. And there's this guy knocking on the door in the farm system. I don't know if you heard of him, Dustin Wolf.
I think he's won a couple AHL goalies.
Yeah, he's been just okay. But this guy knocking on the door, it was Dan Vladar's music. But now, obviously, that didn't transpire the way they thought it would. But do you think there's still interest in Dan Vladar from teams out there right now?
Yeah, I think there's definitely interest of him kind of coming in and being either a 1B or a backup. LA is definitely an interesting scenario because Cam Talbot is playing so great. So that would definitely be the backup role. Phoenix Copley hasn't looked as good as he did last year. So that's definitely interesting. But overall, Dan Vladar would take the backup role over definitely half the teams in the NHL. So I think the Flames should actively be shopping him. And I think there's definitely going to be interest in him. I don't know about a month in if a team's ready to pull a trigger on that, but maybe after an injury or something like that, I could definitely see Dan Vladar get moved. But yeah, I would expect by the trade deadline that he ends up getting traded.
I think that it's going to be, by the time we get to the deadline, we're going to be looking at this team and saying, whoa, where we were in October to where we are now is looking a little different. So I think and as they should, they're the best team in the AHL right now. They've been nasty, a dynasty since moving to Calgary. From the all due respect to anybody watching who's from Stockton, but I have not heard anything good about Stockton, California. I heard some absolute horror stories from people who were down there.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how they stayed there. They're fans were told not to wear their red jerseys because of gang affiliations down there.
Yeah.
And that doesn't scare the shit out of you to not go to a game. I don't know what does. Okay, so this one's for you from our boy James Johnson. He says, Oliver Wahlstrom is a guy who hasn't fit in with the Islanders except for this shootout. What would he bring as a potential trade return for one of the Flames defensemen?
Ooh. I'm low on Oliver Wahlstrom. I've kind of given up on him for the most part, I'll be honest. Can he turn it around if he's given big minutes in Calgary after they trade their forwards? It's definitely possible. But yeah, he gets praised for having this great shot. He has only one goal in the year. He had 5 and 35 last year. If I'm a Flames fan, I'm not salivating for an Oliver Wahlstrom trade. I think he's definitely a throw-in in that potential defenseman deal. But at this point, I think his value is genuinely like a third-round pick. I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know if he's worth a second-round pick at this point for a team like Calgary. It's gonna enter a little bit of a retool because he's 23 years old. Not saying that's ancient. Yeah. But he should be. If he panned out, he should be going for 30 and 30 right now as we speak. That was the expectation. So I think Wahlstrom is a good guy if you end up trading Lindholm and a couple other guys. Well, I guess you're trading mainly defensemen, but he would definitely slot into your bottom six, and maybe you can find something. But yeah, he never really got that drive and that determination, and obviously the goal scoring hasn't really came. And if you're not scoring goals and you're not playing good defense and you're not trying your hardest, you're not cracking the lineup, and especially on a team like Islanders that are built on grit. So yeah, I've been pretty disappointing at a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom overall, his Islanders experience thus far. And the fan base as a whole is kind of, obviously tonight was like good for him. Like hopefully he gets the confidence going, but it's been pretty disappointing.
Yeah, and left-handed penman brings up, he says, "Oh God, he sounds exactly like Yegor Sharangovich."
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at it like Yegor is 2 years older than him, but very similar. They look to be very similar players, in the sense that, like, they're also almost like, it's crazy. They're like the exact same build. I'm just looking at their, like, just year after year stats and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I feel like are the Islanders even in a spot to like try to trade for one of the Flames defensemen anyways? Like,
I obviously would be an upgrade over Aho or Mayfield at this point. Granted, Mayfield has 7 years left on his contract, so. but it would definitely be an upgrade over Aho. So like, definitely look into it. I personally, if we're not in a playoff spot and Lou ends up trading a first round pick for like to try to go all in, I might actually like do some bad things. But when looking at that, like I hope they don't go all in. But yeah, I could definitely see if the Islanders are in the mix, getting one of those defensemen definitely would be an upgrade for them. Would they throw in a guy like Wahlstrom? Sure. At this point, I honestly don't know. You can just bring up someone from Bridgeport, and it really wouldn't be that big of a difference.
Yeah, the Flames are notorious for having such good trades with the New York Islanders. I'll take you back to one where the Calgary Flames acquired one Travis Hamonic in exchange for a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks. And I don't recall who those picks were.
Second-round pick was Ruslan Ishakov. He's still in the AHL developing. I forget who the other second-round pick
We have
was.
to find this out because
obviously the first-round pick is the only thing that matters.
Who
it
was?
Might be Aturatu. I could be wrong.
Was it? No, I think it was. It was before that draft. Yeah, it was way before 2017, wasn't it? Or 2018?
I forget.
I can't remember. Okay, Travis Hamonic.
Oh my God, no, the Aturatu, the pick was originally, because I did the Oilers video the other day. The Aturatu pick was actually the Andreas Athanasiou trade. It ended up being the Aturatu pick that the Oilers ended up giving away for like 9 games of it. Yeah, that's a different story. That's a different story. If you bad Oilers trade, I'm sure the Calgary people want to hear that. Want to hear that rehashed.
So yeah, they at this point there's not much to clamor about here in Flames land. So it was Travis Hamonic and a fourth, which ended up being Lucas Fuke.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, in exchange for a 2018 first, which ended up being the 12th overall pick, in which the Islanders selected Noah Dobson, a 2018 second, Ishakov, you're correct, and a 2019 second, which was Samuel Bolduc.
Oh yeah, but yeah, Bolduc has played a couple. He's played sparring on the NHL. He's definitely not like an NHL regular, but he's that AHL defenseman that comes in whenever someone gets hurt. It's like he's been. I think he has probably like 60, 70 NHL games on his roster, but nothing's better. Obviously, Noah Dobson is the only player that really matters in that, and that obviously has worked out. He's really breaking out.
Let's not let history repeat itself, and maybe you guys can swindle Brad over a Leafs trade or something instead of trying to get Craig Conroy to follow in the footsteps of Brad Treliving. That's gonna do it. Let's close it there. Thanks for the questions for the press conference. Obviously, this was a game that I was looking forward to. I'm glad we got to finally chop it up and talk shop together. This has been a long time in the making. When I got the schedule, I was like, do I get Mike on for the Islanders game? And then I threw it up in the group chat. Of course, everybody was like, yeah, you got to get him. You got to get him. Mm-hmm. So this is great. Thank you for your time. I want to do this again. I don't even know if I have the next Islanders game, but if I do, we'll have to chop it up again and see how many people we talked about tonight for the Calgary Flames are actually still Calgary Flames at that point. Obviously, a lot can change between now and then, but what won't change is where people can find you and what you're up to. So if you want to take the floor and tell everybody where they can find you and what kind of cool things you're doing.
Yeah, man. TikTok, in Instagram, MB on hockey, and then in terms of Twitter, just at Mike Bartner. YouTube, Mike Bartner as well. Starting to post like kind of daily on YouTube. That's the next expansion of the MB on hockey empire. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. Fantastic time. We got to do this again,
Of course.
And yeah, love me some SDPN. Sports are fun.
Well, yeah, they are fun. Hey, I see what you did there. This guy did his homework. He knows where he's at. We'll have to make sure I'll plant the seed with the other shows that you haven't been on, and we'll go from there and see if we can.
I'll start following people on Twitter today.
Just start cold calling people and be like, hey, so I've been on 2.
You love your work, man.
That's awesome. Hey, everybody who's watching, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on playback, appreciate you as well. Be sure to like. Listen, guys, subscribe. That's important. We gotta get views into subscriptions. Do you want to see the cool thing that I'm gonna have when SDPN hits 100,000? We're at like 95, just over 95,000 subs right now. Let's translate that into 100,000. And I've got something fun planned for 100K for SDPN. So you're gonna want to see it here when that happens. And so like, subscribe, comment. Been lots of great comments so far. If you're listening on playback, be sure to rate us on your favorite podcatcher. This was a Calgary Flames loss in a shootout to the New York Islanders 5-4 at the Scotiabank Saddledome. My name is Auddie James. On behalf of myself and my good pal Mike Bartner, we want to thank you for joining us, and we will talk to you on the next Calgary Flames game, which is a good reminder. I can tell you exactly when that is and who's going to be hosting Game Over Calgary. It's going to be me on Monday night against the Seattle Kraken. No guest yet, but we'll work on that.
No curse either.
No, frig. We'll see. I don't know. It's been a bad curse so far. I don't think I've recorded very many wins. But either way, we look to change the fortunes here on Game Over Calgary on Monday against the Kraken. Stay safe, friends. We will talk to you on Monday at the conclusion of Flames and Kraken. Adios.
Get